what's up?
If you want to talk about the downfall of the Migos, everybody played a hand. Well, not Takeoff as much, but it is really tied to mostly Offset and Quavo. In this video, we're going to break down the roles that everybody played in the disbandment of the group. For a lot of people, it's always been Takeoff, Offset, and Quavo. Period. There's no explanation needed, and if you feel different, drop it in the comments. Migos at one point were the biggest hip-hop group out. I wouldn't put them in the same pedestal as NWA or Wu-Tang. Those are truly solidified foundational groups, but Migos was absolutely influential in their era. They are easily top 10. That's something I'm not even gonna debate with you about. They had a lot of cultural impact, consistency, and they shifted the sound. The Migos mixtape era is probably one for the books. To some people, they had a better mixtape run than an album run. They blew up in the Atlanta scene off their mixtapes alone, and they came in with a sound that was just different. That triplet flow, the ad-libs, and the energy, they had something new that nobody else was really doing like that. And their chemistry as a trio was completely unmatched. They filled a lane in hip-hop that was empty for a while. There hadn't been a true group with a distinct, recognizable sound in years, and the Migos stepped into that and they owned it. They weren't just rapping, they were setting trends, shaping the wave, making music that had the clubs, the radios, and the internet on lock. Their influence alone became the modern sound of trap and mainstream hip-hop. Whether people didn't really like them, a lot of artists started imitating them. When it came to Migos and their ad-libs, nobody could touch them on that. So when you hear,
"Oh, give him a time. Oh,"
you know who you're listening to. So they're legends in their own right. But like many groups, somewhere along the way, things started to fall in the way. It seemed like they faced a lot of obstacles. Was it their albums not being as good as their mixtapes? Was it their relationship drama? Was it Lear Cohen? Or was it their repetitive sound?
Amigos, but all them niggas sound the same.
They were a group that came in so strong and ended up splitting up. And to this day, most people really don't know why. Considering Takeoff, Offset, and Quavo called each other family, the only thing I could do is give you the clues and let you piece it together. So this is Quavo's story. Quavo was actually a high school quarterback and was just a few months away from graduation before he decided to drop out. From there, he started taking music more seriously with his nephew Takeoff and their close friend Offset. At first, they called themselves the Polo Club, but eventually switched to Migos. They dropped their first full-length mixtape Jug Season in 2011 and followed that up with No Label in 2012. And we can all agree, like 2010 to like 2017 was like peak music. Even at an early stage, the Migos were making a lot of noise. They were already buzzing in the Atlanta scene, pulling up to house parties all over Georgia just to perform. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a grind, and people were starting to pay attention. During this time, they were dropping mixtape after mixtape and really building that core fan base. In 2013, they officially signed to Quality Control, which was still building its own name at the time. That same year, they had their first major breakthrough with their third mixtape, YRN. That tape had some big names on it already. It had Gucci Mane, Trinidad James, Riff Raff, and Soulja Boy. They were already rubbing shoulders with industry heads. Songs like Hannah Montana and Bando were doing numbers, especially in the South, but Versace was the one that took them to the next level.
Versace, I love it, Versace, the top of my Audi.
When Drake hopped on the remix, that was like the skyrocket. The song was doing good alone, but we all know about Drake and his stimulus package. That cosign alone put them in a whole new league, and suddenly everybody wanted to know who the Migos were. Once Versace blew up, it became their moment. They were literally everywhere. 2013 was a great year for music because a lot of people had their own style and sound. No one sounded alike, but because the Migos were so different and unique, they got a lot of love and a lot of hate.
That shit was hard.
No, all that shit was hard. I was an early Migos hater.
Oh, damn, you was.
I was an early Migos
See,
hater.
it's always, you want some bullshit, man.
Nah,
Nigga
I was
crazy.
an early Migos hater. Why? Versace.
You hated that shit?
Their entry for me, Versace, I had their version without Drake, and then I had the version with Drake, and I was like, all right.
And then we had the Drake only version.
Oh, go ahead.
In your phone?
Drake only version is crazy.
Nah, don't do that to Migos on Versace. It's true, but don't do that.
I was getting ready to say, we gonna tell the truth.
Migos on Versace sounded just very raw Migos. And if Fight Night and all that shit came on, that was when I was in my Kid Ink era.
Hard.
I was in my fucking Ty Dolla Sign.
What really sets Quavo apart from the rest of the group is the fact that he was already kind of the center. Like, yeah, all three of them brought something special to the table, but Quavo was really like the glue. You can't really picture the Migos without the signature ad-libs and melodic hooks. He might not be the hardest rapper at the group, Offset got the bars, and Takeoff was super underrated with his flow, but Quavo was the most memorable. He was the one that people instantly recognized, the one who stood out visually and sonically. He had star quality. He just knew how to carry it, and the audience saw it too. Quavo's charisma is what really helped the group grow, especially with the female audience because, like, let's be real, he is the pretty boy. When the Migos dropped No Label 2, it's wild that that wasn't their debut album, because aside from the success of Young Rich Niggas, that was a great successor project because it was filled with bangers. It had Handsome and Wealthy, Freak No More, and Fight Night. The mixtape had classic Migo energy and drew up a lot of hype for their debut album. So when they finally announced that their official debut album was releasing, Young Rich Nation, people expected it to be a level up moment. It had big name features like Chris Brown and Young Thug, and it was supposed to be their transition into mainstream spotlight. But when it finally dropped on July 31st, 2015, it just didn't hit the same. The energy was off, the rollout was quiet, the sound felt more polished and commercial, which clashed with what made Migos Migos in the first place. It wasn't a terrible project, it just wasn't the moment fans were waiting for. The album's performance was impacted by legal issues, including Offset's incarceration during its release, which affected promotion and the group's chemistry. So Young Rich Nation underperformed, they didn't wait around, they decided, aight, let's get back in the studio. They also decided that they wanted to part ways with 300 Entertainment, aka Leor Cohen, opting to release Back to the Bando independently through Quality Control Music. Just 2 months later, on September 2015, they dropped Back to the Bando, and the title said it all. This was Migos reclaiming their sound and going back to what they do best. The tape brought us Look at My Dab, which played a significant role in popularizing the dab dance craze. Migos and their label Quality Control had grown increasingly frustrated with 300 Entertainment. The Migos felt like they were being held back both creatively and strategically. In several interviews, including a complex cover story in 2017, Coach K, which is QC's founder, explained that 300 wasn't letting them drop music at the pace that they were used to. Look at My Dab was going crazy, but because of the label politics and contract issues, they couldn't officially release it as a single or capitalize on the wave. Offset even stated 300 was the biggest hurdle. They tried to hold us against our will. Migos dropped Bad and Bougie in late 2016. At first it caught on really slowly. Then it went crazy when Donald Glover shouted it out during the Golden Globes in 2017.
I want to thank the Migos, not for being in the show, but for making Bad and Bougie. Like, that's the best song ever.
The song instantly shot up to #1 on the Billboard 100, making it the Migos' first ever chart-topping single and a full circle moment. It went viral, had memes everywhere, and took over the clubs and the radio. This wasn't just another street hit, it was a global song. Then came the Culture album in early 2017, which debuted at #1. The album marked their official crossover into mainstream superstardom, from T-Shirt to Slippery. The entire project had a lot of mass appeal, and once there was no doubt that these guys were stars, Quavo officially started stepping into his own. Offset was getting a lot of buzz with his relationship with Cardi, and Quavo just started capitalizing off his melodic hooks. He became that go-to guy. He started popping up on the biggest tracks outside of the Migos, like Congratulations with Post Malone, which became an anthem and went multi-platinum. Then came I'm On One with DJ Khaled, Justin Bieber, Lil Wayne, and Chance the Rapper, another smash hit. He was on Portland with Drake and Travis Scott, and later on No Brainer with the same Khaled lineup. It felt like anytime you turned on the radio, Quavo's voice was just there, doing hooks and dropping ad-libs. Eventually, he teamed up with Travis Scott with their collab album Huncho Jack Jack Huncho, and the reactions were mixed. They tried to pull a Beyonce with a surprise drop, teasing it on Instagram, but it didn't have the same effect, cause yeah. Some people loved it, and some people felt like it was mid-poo-poo, but it did show just how far Quavo had leveled up in the game. Quavo was beginning to cross over on his own without his members, and he was succeeding. In 2018, Quavo dropped his debut solo album, Quavo Huncho. This was the moment that he really tried to step out of the group's shadow and prove that he could carry on a full-length project on his own. The album had features from Drake, Cardi, Travis Scott, Kid Cudi, and Madonna. Yes, Madonna. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, so numbers-wise, it did well, but critically, again, it was mixed. His singles, Lamb Talk and Working Me, did fairly well, but the album in general wasn't the people's favorite. The most forgotten part of the album was Quavo's diss to Nicki, which a lot of people were confused by. In 2017, Migos dropped Motorsport featuring Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, and what seemed like a simple collab was a driving point to huge headlines and a rap beef, and it turned into a cold war between Nicki, Cardi, and Quavo. Nicki later explained that she was asked to be on the track first and then Cardi was added later. But when rumors started flying that Nicki didn't want to be on the track with Cardi or that she was sneak dissing Cardi, Quavo didn't publicly defend her, even though, according to Nicki, he knew the truth. He was the one that helped orchestrate it and basically left her hanging when she started to look like the bad guy.
Quavo, and I said, hey, just, could you back me up on this? Because, I don't want people to think I'm lying. What do I have to lie about? And he didn't back me up. And, he texted me. He was like, I would go on Twitter and back you up if you were my girl. LOL. And that hurt because he's somebody, like, I love him, And
Quavo and Nicki are very familiar with each other. They did the song She for Keeps for the Quality Control album, and rumor has it they started dating, with Quavo buying Nicki gifts. We all know Nicki is a very animated individual, but this is probably one of the worst videos on the internet. So obviously, Nicki and Quavo are beefing. So Nicki makes this parody song name-dropping rappers.
Yo, somebody go and make sure Karuchi okay though. I heard she think I'm trying to get a coochie to Quavo.
So Quavo retaliates by dropping Huncho Dreams dissing Nicki, saying that he skied on her face. He followed this up during a launch party by hiring someone to impersonate Nicki's Chanel bag video. At the same time, all three members started focusing on solo ventures, Offset dropping Father of Four, and Takeoff dropped The Last Rocket. Now if we compare the three, a lot of people feel like it was Offset, Takeoff, and Quavo. I'm just saying, Quavo's album was apparently the least favorable. Quavo eventually finding a new love interest in Saweetie, a very good-looking couple that unfortunately did not last that long. Their relationship played a huge role in elevating both their brands. Saweetie was starting to gain traction with music. Songs like My Type and Tap In were taking off, but honestly, it was more so her brand that carried her further. Their chemistry made them one of the most talked about couples at the time. The public loved watching their relationship through IG posts, interviews, and even GQ's couples quiz, which racked up millions of views. Those two getting together was good for the moment because their relationship did bring in a lot of publicity.
If you're not getting you a Birkin, if you're not paying for your bills, then throw that nigga back to the streets, okay?
But after a few years, their relationship problems started coming to surface. They started posting cryptic messages to each other, basically confirming their breakup. Then TMZ drops a video of them fighting in an elevator.
In a recent video released by TMZ, the rappers are involved in a full-on physical scuffle while on an elevator. The surveillance footage was caught on camera at an apartment complex in North Hollywood. The video starts with a struggle beginning outside of an elevator with the icy girl swinging on her glacier boy, him dodging the hit, and the two going toe-to-toe over what seems to be an orange Call of Duty case. The fight continues inside the elevator with Quavo dragging her inside, Saweetie taking a spill and seemingly being injured while the Migos rapper does nothing to help her. At one point, he seems to realize the camera has recorded their altercation, but still does nothing to assist Saweetie, who is still on the ground. Just a couple of weeks ago, when Saweetie tweeted out confirmation that she was single and that, quote, the love isn't real when the intimacy is given to other women. This immediately sparked cheating rumors and even prompted Quavo to get a bit defensive on his Twitter, stating, quote, I don't normally put my business out there, especially my personal life. I feel the need to address this so there are no false narratives. I had love for you and disappointed you did all that. You are not the woman I thought you were.
He never really outwardly spoke about their relationship, but he did stuff to confirm that the relationship was truly over by repossessing the Bentley he got her.
Hold up the bass, now I feel like I ripped it. She had it her way, now she out of a Bentley. Get out.
Saweetie talked about their relationship to the public a few times, both good and bad, but nothing harmful to Quavo's reputation.
No, I thought we was gonna spend, the rest of our lives together. Mm-hmm.
You think that way every nigga. Like, you get a nigga, y'all be in love, and he's like...
With him, I just knew it was the one. I was just, hella enthralled with just who he was as a human. Even if he wasn't a rapper, I would have still, been in love with him.
He was like, I would never do this to you. He was like, man, you can go through my phone. My code is da-da-da-da-da. And I go, oh, it's da-da-da-da-da? Da-da-da-da-da? No. I put the code in my phone. Girl, this man has been playing me the whole time. No. But I knew it was a sickness because it was all types of women.
Really?
Yeah.
Eventually, Quavo dropped a song with Takeoff called Messy, speaking on the situation.
I'm bringing all kind of narcotics with me. Narcotics. Got guns on the table, I'm like, who fired this here? Who? This bitch got past security, I'm like, who let her in? Don't let that pro bitch in, cause she too messy.
A lot of people question why they broke up, and it was obviously because of infidelity on both sides. But the bigger question was who? At first, people assumed it was Offset, because by this time in Quavo's career, there was tension between him and Offset, and because they never directly addressed it, a lot of people still don't know why. It seemed like the Migos had an unconfirmed split with Takeoff and Quavo on one side and Offset on the other. People thought it was because of label issues, with Offset suing his label QC, while Takeoff and Quavo never publicly displayed any issues with the label and still releasing music under quality control. Takeoff and Quavo dropping a joint album without Offset called Infinity Links, which confirmed that there was indeed issues in the group. In the song Messy, Quavo said, "BF my dog behind my back," which was alluded to be either Offset, which is someone the internet was running with, or a Lil Baby. Offset and Cardi had unfollowed Takeoff and Quavo on Instagram. Quavo suggested that the issues within Migos weren't about labels or contracts, but rather a lack of loyalty. implying that Offset had broken trust within the group. He emphasized that their bond was supposed to be built on real loyalty, and since that wasn't being displayed, he and Takeoff decided to move forward as a duo, leaving the rest up to time. But let's be real, if Saweetie really did that with Offset, I'm sure Cardi would have said something by now, or crashed out. Unfortunately for the Migos, time was not in their favor as they lost Takeoff. Takeoff's tragic death marked a heartbreaking turning point for the Migos and the bond between Quavo and Offset. Takeoff was fatally shot outside a Houston bowling alley during a dice game gone wrong. He wasn't involved in the argument that led to the violence, he was simply caught in the crossfire. Quavo, who was playing dice, ended up getting into an argument which led to shots being fired. Takeoff was not involved in the argument from what people have said. He was a naturally very quiet person who didn't involve himself in anything. He had a very laid-back character, so when he faced the consequences of something that didn't involve him, it hurt a lot of people, including Quavo and Offset.
In just the last few hours, Patrick Clark, the man accused of killing Migos rapper Takeoff, has been indicted by a Harris County grand jury on murder charges. That's according to the Harris County District Attorney. Now, Clark was arrested for the murder in connection with Takeoff's death.
Unfortunately, Takeoff's death didn't help Quavo and Offset reconcile. At the 2023 Grammys, tensions were high between the two and a fight erupted backstage. It's still kinda unclear why they had an argument. It was allegedly because Quavo refused to let Offset participate in the tribute performance.
Enter Cardi B.
Both of y'all wrong. Both of y'all. This is not right. Now go. This is your big talking.
So what went down? It appears tensions boiled over between the remaining members of Migos, Cardi's husband Offset and his cousin Quavo.
I heard you back here settling some stuff.
The only thing I settled was my outfit, honey.
The two reportedly got into a physical fight. Offset upset because he felt Quavo blocked him from performing for Takeoff's In Memoriam tribute. Today, Offset denied the fight on Twitter.
How important was it to be here tonight to perform?
Very important. Long live Takeoff.
In the aftermath of Takeoff's death, Quavo channeled his grief into advocacy against gun violence, launching the Rocket Power Foundation and committing $2 million towards community violence intervention and after-school programs. He was also supporting Kamala Harris during her campaign speaking against gun violence.
Why did you make the decision that you wanted to speak up now?
It's a lot of people that's going through gun violence, especially in my community, in my culture, but at the same time, artists. I'm a survivor. I was there, so at the same time, it could have been both of us gone.
We joined the Grammy-nominated artist as he traveled to Washington looking to turn his grief into action.
We live at the White House.
Meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris.
I want my nephew's life to mean a lot. Now we're going to change it from guns into laws.
What do you think Takeoff would think about the work that you're doing now?
He'll most definitely be proud of me. And I just know he ain't gonna never believe my side, so it's a tough thing knowing that we separated and knowing I'm not gonna see him again on this earth, but it's cool. And I know he's proud of me.
2024 was the year of a rap beef overload. Drake and Kendrick beef was so big that everything else got buried under the table, even Quavo and Chris Brown's beef. Like, under normal circumstances, Chris's diss track would have had the whole internet in shambles. The man's diss was ruthless. Kendrick dropped back-to-back nukes on Drake, and suddenly nobody was checking for Chris versus Quavo. The timing was wild. Chris delivered a cutthroat diss, but it got lost in the echo chamber of Kendrick's lyrical assault. If it hadn't been for the Kendrick versus Drake saga sucking up all the oxygen in the room, Chris's diss would have easily been the most talked about moment in hip-hop for weeks. I'm not even gonna lie, when I saw Quavo and Chris trending on Twitter, I literally thought it was fake. There was just way too much going on. So the tension between Chris Brown and Quavo allegedly started because of Karrueche Tran, which we all know is Chris's ex, who he refuses to let go, and mind you, he's the reason they broke up. Well, after their messy breakup, she was rumored to be dating Quavo around 2017. Remember what Nicki said in Barbie Dreams?
Yo, somebody go and make sure Karrueche okay though. I heard she think I'm trying to get a coochie to Quavo.
Yeah, So Chris reportedly felt betrayed since Migos had been on songs with him before and they were cool. So for Breezy, this came off as disloyal, especially after a very public fallout he had with Karrueche, including the legal issues that they had and the restraining order she filed against him. So back when the Migos were still a trio, his crew crossed paths with Chris's crew and it started a lot of drama.
Oh, they about to pump.
Since then, Chris and Quavo have been throwing shit at each other for years with no intention on squashing the beef.
Chris Brown reacted to people thinking him and Quavo were back cool after seeing them sitting next to each other at a fashion show in Paris. Chris Brown let everybody know him and Quavo are still not on good terms. He went on social media and posted, "You can't pick who you sit by. Y'all can miss me with all that talk about growth. I'm not fumbling my bag for a peon."
So their beef was over Karrueche because Quavo name dropped her in a song.
You still fucked up by Karrueche? You tried to beat up Tiana, but Usher wouldn't let you do it. The cocaine got him, your honor. Bipolar disorder, no wonder. You was the greatest, nigga, you fumble. When I said I'm watching you crumble. Why they got Quavo out here going back and forth with a singer that turned to a junkie? Never got light skin versus brown skin, nigga finna divide the country. Nigga, you ain't been in the trenches. We step in the yard, you know how that ended? Won't smoke with me? OHB mean fighting over hoes and bitches? Who gassed you up to put that out? Yeah, that was shitty, nigga. I can take a model bitch and make her sweetie, nigga.
Calling him Michael Jackson on crack was funny, but Chris came harder and revealed some tea.
Fuck my ex-hoe, that's cool, I don't give no fuck, little nigga. Cause I fucked your ex when you was still with a bitch, I'm up, little nigga. They say revenge is sweet. Now think about that shit. Don't let that lie go over your head. I might just sing about that shit. I had a feeling about that. There's something sweet about that shit. I got some tea about that shit, but I ain't gonna speak about that shit. Robbie Takeoff, he the only real one that got true respect. Crazy how when he died, everybody really wished it was you instead.
Chris Brown and Saweetie were caught courtside, so I guess Chris was getting his lick back. Now Chris definitely went hard, and till this day, it's beef forever.
2 seasons in a row, Crew League, you guys are champions. You know, I heard y'all call out some people last year.
Yeah, he was scared. Quavo.
Who scared?
Quavo, bring your out of here again. I said it twice. Second time.
As for Offset and Quavo, they have slightly put their beef aside here and there. I think they're somewhat cool one moment, somewhat not cool the next moment. But they have came together and put aside their differences when they did the tribute performance for BET. But overall, everything is still up in the air for the two. Quavo was definitely the star of the Migos with the most recognizable ad-libs, the flashiest style, and being the face of the group. Sonically, he did help define an entire era of trap music with his melodies and catchy hooks. His voice became a staple in hip-hop, not just for the group records, but also features across the industry. When it comes to a long-term impact outside the trio, Quavo's solo career never quite matched the cultural weight of the Migos as a unit. The chemistry he had with Takeoff and Offset was lightning in a bottle. That the real blame falls on Offset and Quavo. That they let their own ego, pride, and their ambition drive a wedge straight through the heart of the group. They went chasing solo dreams and relationships, and somewhere along the way, the brotherhood that once made them unstoppable started to crumble. But here's the thing, the question still remains, who's really at fault? Because let's be real, groups break up all the time, that's not new. What makes it messy is when friction turns into betrayal, when the loyalty that once kept you moving as a unit disappears. And suddenly, it's not just creative differences, it's egos clashing, it's personal moves that turns into public drama. So maybe it was ego, maybe it was some betrayal behind the scenes. Quavo did hint at it enough. Maybe Offset's marriage to Cardi B changed the group dynamics in ways people don't want to admit. Or maybe it was just time. Groups, no matter how tight they are, usually have an expiration date when real life starts to hit. But when you add everything together, you got the perfect recipe for what we saw happen to the Migos. It wasn't just one thing, it was a lot of little cracks that finally split wide open. When the Migos were first popping off as a group, Offset was there in spirit. A lot of their old music videos had only Takeoff and Quavo. Offset was always visibly missing because he was locked up, missing a lot of their earliest momentum. In 2013, when Versace blew up and the Migos dropped their mixtape YRN, Offset was locked up for violating probation he got from an earlier burglary and theft charges. By the time he got out later that year, Quavo and Takeoff had already built the Migos name. They were doing shows, interviews, and laying the foundation without him. Then in 2015, right after the Migos dropped their debut album Young Rich Nation, Offset got arrested again, and this time this was way more serious. He got locked up on drug and charges after a raid at Georgia Southern University. He ended up sitting in jail for 8 months, missing even more key moments when the group was supposed to be leveling up. And during that time, Quavo and Takeoff were doing the same exact thing, pushing without him again, doing interviews, dropping music videos, and trying to keep the brand alive. So when people talk about why the group fell apart later, you gotta remember that Offset missed some of the most important moments that bonded Quavo and Takeoff. They basically carried the weight while he was locked up, and even after they reunited and blew up bigger than ever. So once Offset decided to stay out of jail, the Migos were already huge. Yes, he had his verses and occasional camera time and his savage moments. But the essence of the Migos was built off of Quavo's charisma and Takeoff's energy. They were the ones who carried the group when Offset kept getting locked up during their rise. When he finally became more active, the momentum was already there. In 2017, their single Bad and Bougie became an internet phenomenon. And Offset's performance on that track put him front and center. The song went #1 on Billboard Hot 100, and a lot of critics said that Offset commanded the track more than anybody else. That same year, they dropped their second studio album, Culture, which debuted at #1, and by then, Offset was fully in the mix. Even though Offset was the last to drop a solo album, he was already getting solo success before that. In 2017, he teamed up with Metro Boomin and 21 Savage for their collab tape Without Warning. And it did numbers. Ric Flair Drip was on constant rotation for me in high school. It became a hit on its own, peaking at #13. Then in 2018, he hopped on Tyga's Taste, which ended up being his first top 10 solo hit and went diamond the same year. Then he was on Kodak Black's ZZ with Travis Scott, which hit #2 on the charts. So even before the group started getting individual success, Offset was the first one to start getting plaques without the group. A major part of Offset's success came from his relationship with Cardi B. Before she even dropped Bodak Yellow, Cardi was already an internet personality, known for hilarious videos and her stripper to star stories that people loved. When she landed on Love and Hip Hop New York, she became the breakout star of the show because of how honest she was and completely herself. People felt like they knew her, and more importantly, they felt like they could be her. She became the true underdog that made it. So when Cardi started dating Offset around 2017, it wasn't just another rap couple, it was a media moment, and because she was blown up so fast, Offset became part of that narrative. When Bodak Yellow went #1 and the public found out they were a couple, all eyes were on them. They had already started collabing with each other, but it wasn't until he proposed to her on stage during a concert that fans really started tuning in. But what the fans didn't know was that they were already secretly married. So it's very interesting that one of the earliest and most public cheating scandals involving Offset came in late 2017, just weeks after he proposed to Cardi. A leaked video surfaced online showing Offset in a hotel room with another woman, and internet investigators started noticing he was wearing the same outfit and shoes from a concert in September, which meant the video was filmed months earlier. During that time, he and Cardi were dating or allegedly married. The leak was part of a phone hack, so some people suggested that Offset may have proposed as part of a PR move to cover up the infidelity. It added a complicated layer to their relationship from the jump, especially as Cardi had just hit #1 with Bodak Yellow, and the Migos were gearing up for their Culture 2 rollout. But it did not take long before there was another cheating rumor and a phone leak. Then the rumor swirled that Offset had tried to set up a threesome with 2 women, Summer Bunny and Cuban Doll, while Cardi was pregnant with Culture. Text messages were allegedly leaked showing Offset coordinating the encounter. Cardi announces that she's not with Offset anymore, and he tries to win her back by crashing her set at Rolling Loud, where he brought out flowers and a sign reading "Take Me Back, Cardi."
I just want to tell you I'm sorry, bro. First, in front of the world, I love you. But everybody got to do to show you, bro.
Offset and Cardi's relationship is a wacky, terrible roller coaster and wouldn't be the last time they had issues. But it didn't stop them from doing music together. Offset dropped his album Father of Four, and it was well received critically. This album to me was kinda boring, but it had a decent reception from his fans, with Pitchfork rating it a 6.9, which is a pretty fair rating. He had the single Clout featuring Cardi and other really good tracks like Red Room. If you compare Offset's role in the group compared to Quavo's melodic hooks and Takeoff's deep voice, Offset had a smoother, more composed delivery that kept the group's sound very grounded. His flow is sharp but never overbearing. He had this ability to make even chaotic tracks feel controlled. His sound is more so riding the beat instead of attacking it, and even though his voice was more subtle compared to the others, it brought contrast, like a cool layer that balanced the aggression or energy coming from Quavo and Takeoff. I already talked about this in my Quavo video, which is the reasoning behind Chris Brown's beef with the Migos. The entire beef escalating at the BET Awards, where both their crews almost got into a fight. Things ignited with Offset and Chris when Chris posted a meme of 21 Savage's ICE arrest. Offset, a close friend of 21, didn't really like that and called Chris lame for sharing it. In response, Chris was like, "Okay, so do you want to fight?" Even going as far as to posting his home address and inviting Offset to confront him in person. Now, even though you can just Google Chris Brown's address, I still think it's weird how he just openly posted it. So because of this, it caused the LA Police Department to conduct a welfare check at his residence. After the Culture 3 dropped in 2021, which would become the group's final album as a trio, the tension between Quavo and Offset began to quietly bubble. Offset had featured on the Fast and Furious 9 song Hit 'Em Hard, which seemed like another collab, but it also marked a shift towards solo visibility again. That same year, while the group didn't officially announce a breakup, there were noticeable signs that things just were not the same. And social media played a big role. Fans noticed that both Offset and Cardi B unfollowed Quavo and Takeoff on Instagram. And at the same time, Quavo and Takeoff started pushing their side project, Unconfused, debuting their single Hotel Lobby, with no mention of Offset. The optics were loud, and a new duo was forming, and Offset was not a part of it. There were huge whispers of deeper issues, including financial disputes, label frustrations, and personal betrayal. Quavo alluded to disloyalty in his interviews, leading fans to speculate that someone had crossed the line. Meanwhile, Offset was fighting his own legal battle with Quality Control over the rights to his solo material, further deepening the divide. Takeoff choosing the side of his uncle and never actually speaking out about his beef with Offset aside from his loyalty to Quavo. When Takeoff died, it seemed like Offset was trying to get on a journey of being a better man. Offset described Takeoff's passing as a devastating, life-altering event. In his interview with Variety, he admitted that he was in a dark place and couldn't even talk about Takeoff for months. Cardi and Offset's relationship has always been rocky, especially given Offset's cheating scandals. But after Takeoff's death, Cardi and Offset seemed to become more united. Cardi said in interviews that she was helping Offset through the grief. Offset leaned on Cardi heavily, even speaking out and uplifting Cardi by saying that she held him down while he was falling apart inside, eventually expressing his remorse for cheating on Cardi.
You think you could cheat on somebody and still be in love?
For sure. Like when I did do that, like I was in a different space. I was young. I had just got married. I'm getting a lot of money. Really was communication. I was on different shit. Like I was on lean and shit too. Like I already done talked about that in my Variety magazine shit. Like I was on lean. I was making bad decisions, not really realizing it's affecting my family instead of just me thinking about my own. Like and so, but then when I grow past that, all my growth. Why you think she loved me how she loved me? Like, my growth, I done showed. Like, I'm a real one. Like, I'm not gonna do this. I ain't gonna play with you. I ain't gonna keep playing with you. And then, cause it's affecting you, and it's heartbreaking. It's wrong. You know what I'm saying? But the people are still popping out like, oh, if anybody say anything, it's that.
But I guess that was only for a short period of time, and he continued cheating on Cardi after that, cause that's just what he does. And he also surprisingly apologized to Chris Brown. I guess he ain't want no smoke. Offset announced his second studio album and dropped 2 singles, 54321 and Code. But behind the scenes, trouble again was following Offset. Right after 54321 dropped, Offset filed a lawsuit against Quality Control Music. According to his legal team, Offset had already paid handsomely to secure the rights to release music independently, meaning that the solo work was supposed to be completely separate from QC. However, the label allegedly tried to claim ownership of 54321, triggering legal disputes and further straining the relationship within the Migos camp. On the album's release, those singles weren't included. Including it on the album, which came out under Motown and Capitol, not QC, may have opened the door for QC to seek royalties or legal interference. And honestly, the songs didn't chart that high anyways for it to matter. He released his album Set It Off, peaking at number 5, but it did give a little insight into his feelings on the Migos split. Rapping the lyrics, I would be lying if I say I ain't missed a 3. Following up with I'm better on my own. Then came the final blow to the group's public image, which is a rumor circulating that Offset had slept with Quavo's ex-girlfriend, Saweetie. Even though neither one of them confirmed or denied the story, but the internet assumed it was true since Offset be cheating. He's a cheater, pumpkin eater. So it's hard for the public to not believe he cheated on Cardi again. Honestly, I said it in my Quavo video, I do not think it's true. Cardi B is a known crash out. She would have crashed out, but I do think it's interesting that nobody wants to confirm nor deny. Either way, the timing was just damning. Just as these rumors surfaced, Quavo and Takeoff released their duo album Only Built for Infinity Links without Offset. In an interview leading up to the album, Quavo didn't outright address the Offset situation, but made it clear that the Unk and Feud duo was the new focus. He once again spoke about the importance of loyalty and wanting to carve a new lane with Takeoff before tragedy struck for them. Then, when the Grammys happened, the two allegedly got into a fight backstage, which Offset said wasn't true because Quavo was his brother.
Cameras caught this blow up from presenter Cardi B.
Both of y'all wrong. Both of y'all. This is not right. Now go. This is your bitch.
So what went down? It appears tensions boiled over between the remaining members of Migos, Cardi's husband Offset and his cousin Quavo.
As time continues to move on, it seems like Offset is the one pushing for reconciliation with Quavo. He was the one openly trying to make amends with him, so whatever happened between Quavo and Offset had to be Offset's fault since he was trying to put up a white flag. Offset has publicly wished Quavo a happy birthday, and later that year, the duo reunited on the stage at the BET Awards to honor Takeoff. So it does seem like they're in the right direction, but someone needs to fully take accountability for whatever truly happened between their friendship.
I want longevity. I want to stay consistent. I want to be 8, 10 years, 20 years later, you still remember my music, still be able to live on. Yeah. And you still remember me, and still remember all the work we put in.
I think it's pretty safe to say, based off everything that's been said and what we've all seen unfold, that Takeoff ain't really have nothing to do with the fallout. From my observation, he was never in the mess. Just like his role in the group, his position in the drama was quiet as kept, and that matches everything about his career. Takeoff was laid back, low-key, and didn't seem too pressed about the spotlight. But when it came to rap, he always had the hardest verses and the most natural energy. He didn't really need to do too much, and I think that's the best way to sum him up. His career reflected who he was. Simple and just happy to be in the mix. Not chasing the fame, not chasing the drama, and just showing up and doing what he does best. Especially when Offset was locked up and Quavo became the face of the group. Quavo had that it factor, and he had the charisma and the image to really push the group forward. He was marketable, and he was the voice of the group, which Takeoff didn't mind. And honestly, I don't think he really cared that he was in the background. He wasn't fighting for attention, he wasn't trying to prove anything, and that's what made his presence even more powerful, because regardless, he is memorable. Takeoff has always been a prominent member of the Migos. He delivered fire verses and the energy, and even though he didn't speak outside the group, his energy brought a lot to the Migos sound, until it didn't. Now, we all know Takeoff was left off of Bad and Bougie.
You say I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
What's that?
You say I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Yeah.
Do it look like I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Yes. Yes, it does. And I don't even know why it was such a big deal, but it was a running joke on Twitter on why Takeoff was left off Bad and Bougie. That song was the Migos' first #1 song, and the song was nominated for a Grammy for the Best Rap Song. But fun fact, that song actually almost didn't happen. The Migos were actually having issues, and Takeoff's absence came down to timing. At the time, they were frustrated because they hadn't dropped any music in a minute. And on top of that, they were dealing with legal issues with their label 300 Entertainment. So instead of waiting on their label, they decided to make a rush move. They rushed and leaked Bad and Bougie on SoundCloud just to get something out. Funny enough, Quavo said he wasn't even supposed to be on it either. It was really meant to be just Offset and Lil Uzi. He ended up throwing his verse on last minute just to help them finish. So yeah, it was a rush job and not so much a deep decision to leave Takeoff off. It was just everybody scrambling to make something happen. So that led to this moment with DJ Academics and Joe Budden.
Hey man, we got the Migos with us here on the BT Awards carpet looking like a fashion spread. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we blessed, man. We dripping too, by the way. What going on?
I see this much ice
Gang
ever.
in the building, you know what the fuck going on.
Yeah, big stones.
Yo, I feel like every week game, but I do want to talk to Takeoff. Takeoff, listen, I feel like there's like a running joke with you being left off Bad and Bougie. Like, how do you feel with the group is succeeding, but sometimes people pinpoint like, why isn't he here? Why isn't he turned up like the other two?
I ain't left off Bad and Bougie. You think I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Say again?
You say I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
What'd you say?
You say I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Yeah.
Do it look like I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
What'd you say?
Do it look like I'm left off Bad and Bougie?
Nah, I mean, it don't look like it.
Yeah, 500 on the chain. Nothing, no game.
That's one thing I like about the group, because ever since when you were in jail, even though you might see one or the other, y'all move as a collective.
All right, we got to wrap this up, though.
Okay. My bad. I be trying to jump.
I didn't
wrap
hear
it up
anything
then.
over there, to be honest.
We good?
Right.
Close it. Close it.
Close it.
Close it.
Hey, listen, man. I wish I could talk to the Migos longer, man. It's one of my favorite groups. I've been covering for so long. I'm glad they're succeeding, man.
Hey man, you guys are nominated tonight. Have a good show.
Hold on. Wait. No. Wait.
Joe already looked visibly frustrated the whole interview, so Joe had already built a reputation for criticizing newer rappers and their style, something that, mind you, almost every old head rapper was basically doing at the time. Artists like the Migos and Lil Yachty were the butt of jokes for a lot of people.
That's what's wrong right now. Everybody trying to rap the same style with the, I don't know who created it, if it was Future or Migos, but all them niggas sound the same.
But Joe's critiques just came off a little bit more hostile. He started questioning their artistry, their lyrical skill, and the industry hype. He was very vocal on everyday struggle, often throwing shade at artists that he felt like were getting a lot of attention without putting in work, especially Lil Yachty.
That's your conversation, bro.
Then tell me what you want from hip-hop.
I don't know. I mean...
You don't think that's a question you should answer at some point?
What do I want from hip-hop?
Or are you leaving all of this to QC to figure out?
Nah, I mean, I'm making music, bro. I'm just having fun. You know what I'm saying? My fans love it.
You're gonna have a problem with just having fun and fun.
What did you want from hip-hop?
You're gonna have a big problem with just having fun. You don't sound like you very aware with what's going on, and you one of the hottest niggas on earth.
But what do you want me to say? You want me to say?
I want you to be aware of your business. I want you to know whether you're in a 360 or not. I want you to appreciate the culture that changed your life and took you from college dorm rooms eating fucking oodles and noodles. I want you who's well-spoken and articulates himself well.
My nigga. Chill.
Yeah, hold on.
Joe was disrespecting the QC family, so by the time the BET Awards interview happened, the tension was already in the air. Takeoff was the second Migo to drop his solo album, and his album wasn't the worst out the bunch. It was fairly decent with some good singles, but nothing exciting or thrilling. It debuted on number 4 on Billboard with singles like Last Memory and Casper.
Saturn, Moon, Earth, and Mars. NASA take off with the rockets. I'ma go ride the rave. I wanna look at the stars today. Ghost. I'ma go ride the rave. Ghost.
The delay between the albums Culture 2 and Culture 3 was notably long for the Migos, taking over 3 years to release the third album in their trilogy. Culture 2 dropped in January 2018, while Culture 3 didn't arrive until June 2021. This gap was largely due to the C-19 pandemic, which caused major disruptions in touring, promotion, and the album rollout plans. In March of 2020, Quavo explained that the group intentionally held off releasing new music because they didn't want to drop it while the world was social distancing. Around that same time, something else was sizzling in the background. Takeoff was facing a civil lawsuit filed in August of 2020, stemming from an alleged assault at a LA party. In June 2020, a woman referred to as Jane Doe alleged that Takeoff had SA'd her at a house party in California. The woman went to a hospital the same day, and the staff observed her and saw physical evidence of forceful rape. According to her claim, she rejected his advances, but he later followed her into a bedroom where the alleged assault took place. On August 5, 2020, she filed a civil lawsuit against Takeoff in the LA County Superior Court, accusing him of sexual battery, assault, false imprisonment, and gender violence and emotional distress. The case garnered basically no media attention. A lot of people don't even know about this, and it went under the radar, and the victim is still anonymous. But in April 2021, the LA County District Attorney Office announced that it would not pursue criminal charges, citing insufficient evidence to move forward with the prosecution. Despite the lack of criminal charges, the civil suit remained active, but by December of 2022, a judge ordered Takeoff to sit for a deposition. However, by November 1st, 2022, Takeoff was tragically shot and unalived in Houston. During these few years, the Migos were having problems internally and the group split up. It became Takeoff and Quavo, and Offset was on the outside. Takeoff never spoke up about the reasons for the split. He did what he always does, which is let Quavo be the voice. But we knew where he stood because he expressed the loyalty that he has for Quavo. The only thing he's ever really said was, "We're always family, ain't nothing gonna change." The Migos were basically done finito at that point, even if nobody had officially announced it, but their album made things very clear. Judging from how things were playing out in the news, Quavo felt betrayed by Offset, and he did what he felt like was best, which is move on with only Takeoff. And that's what the project was, Quavo and Takeoff locking in as a duo and making it known that their bond was different. Their album released in October 2022, the title was inspired by Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links, which symbolized the unbreakable loyalty and the type of bond that couldn't be faked. Their album debuted on number 7 on the charts, with their lead single being Hotel Lobby.
Let's get it. Hop off a 16, passing the ditch of D5. No, that's not a challenger. Big one.
Only a few weeks after the album's release, Takeoff was unfortunately unalived in Texas. The incident occurred during a small private party. An altercation escalated into gunfire, and Takeoff, who was not involved in the dispute, was struck by bullets to the head and torso, resulting in his death at the scene. Following the shooting, 2 individuals were arrested in connection with the case. Patrick Xavier Clark was charged with a murder after being identified through surveillance footage and fingerprints found at the scene.
In just the last few hours, Patrick Clark, the man accused of killing Migos rapper Takeoff, has been indicted by a Harris County grand jury on murder charges. That's according to the Harris County District Attorney. Now, Clark was arrested for the murder in connection with Takeoff's death. Takeoff was shot and killed after a private party at a bowling party downtown in November of last year.
In the aftermath of Takeoff's death, his mother filed a lawsuit against the owners of the bowling alley, alleging that the venue failed to provide adequate security measures to prevent the tragedy. Since Takeoff's death, Jay Prince has faced growing criticism due to his long-standing role in promoting Houston's checking-in culture, which is tied to street politics for protection or respect when visiting certain cities. J Prince and his family, especially his son, J Prince Jr., are most known for this. The fact that Takeoff was killed at a private party hosted by J Prince Jr. immediately raised a lot of eyebrows. Even though J Prince wasn't present, people question how something like this could happen on their watch. The whole point of checking in is supposed to be about safety, and for a high-profile artist like Takeoff to lose his life at an event tied to the Prince family made some people question the Prince family and the checking in culture. So J Prince decided to go on a PR run and brought Offset's name in the mix. J Prince made some questionable comments during an interview on the $1 Million podcast. While trying to defend his family and clarify that they had nothing to do with Takeoff's death, J Prince started taking shots at Offset, accusing him of being disrespectful and questioning his loyalty to Takeoff. He even said something along the lines of, "Don't ever put me in a position where I have to defend myself," which a lot of people took as a threat. It rubbed fans the wrong way, especially since Offset hadn't publicly been saying anything. He was grieving and not doing any interviews. Offset did not let it slide though. He clapped back on Instagram, calling out J Prince for trying to insert himself into something personal. He basically said, "You weren't even there with us. You're speaking on things you don't know anything about." So when Quavo and Chris Brown started beefing, Takeoff was brought into the mix because Quavo used Takeoff's vocals in his diss to Chris Brown, and Chris retaliated by saying this.
R.I.P. Takeoff, he the only real one, got true respect. Crazy how when he died, everybody really wished it was you instead.
And that was pretty harsh. But Quavo and Offset's relationship have been up and down, as they were somewhat beefing about being involved in Takeoff's tribute performance.
Both of y'all wrong. Both of y'all. This is not right. Now, go. This is your business.
So what went down? It appears tensions boiled over between the remaining members of Migos, Cardi's husband Offset and his cousin Quavo.
Quavo and Offset seem to have reached a quiet resolution after Takeoff's death. While they're not exactly back to being brothers like they were in the early Migo days, but it's clear that the grief softened whatever tension existed between them. You can see it in moments like the surprise reunion for the BET Awards, and the way they publicly honored Takeoff together. Takeoff's passing, though, was the kind of loss that put things into perspective. Whatever had pulled Quavo and Offset apart started to look small in comparison to what they had lost. Unfortunately, it took a tragedy to bring them to somewhat cool terms, a reminder that the rift may have been temporary, but Takeoff's absence is forever. Let me know what you guys think down below, and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Toodles!